Thank you, Madam Chair. Secretary McMahon, during your confirmation hearing, when asked about spending appropriated funding, you said, quote, if they have been appropriated by Congress, those funds should be disseminated, close quote. You also said that eliminating the department is not about cutting federal funding for schools. Now we have a budget request that significantly cuts funding for public schools, students, and educators. Now, a few days ago, the OMB director said that impoundment is still on the table, threatening to take funding away this year. And we have your spending plan for this year that still leaves more than $8 billion, in your own words, unallocated. Not spending these funds is the administration making a decision not to invest in our children, and that decision has real consequences. What you consider unallocated for this year includes $1.3 billion for before and after school programs, which supports programs for thousands of students in Wisconsin in approximately 150 locations throughout the state, and over $2 billion to support effective teachers, of which an estimated $23 million would provide evidence-based professional learning for educators and help address gaps in access to effective teachers in Wisconsin. Are you going to allocate all of the funding Congress appropriated for students and schools in Wisconsin and across the country this year?
Well, Senator Baldwin, thank you very much for that question, and I understand your concerns. What we have done in putting forward our operating plan, the first operating plan to show where we were making allocations, and then followed up with the second operating plan.
This isn't a nuanced question. Congress passed a law appropriating this funding. You said in your confirmation hearing that you would spend funding Congress appropriated. If the answer isn't simply yes, based on all of the evidence before us, that leads me to believe that you are planning to withhold funding and shortchange schools, students, and families across America.
Well, we're going to continue to look at the allocations, and we'd like to work with you as we continue to evaluate those programs.
We passed a continuing resolution that appropriated funding, and you said earlier that you were going to spend it as appropriated as is signed into law. So I'm going to move on. Secretary McMahon, when we met before your confirmation hearing, you told me that our students' mental health was a priority for you. Yet you recently decided to discontinue mental health grants that Congress authorized and funded on a bipartisan basis because you determined, quote, they were not in the best interest of the federal government, close quote, which makes me wonder what changed since our conversation. Your operating plan for fiscal year 2025 describes this funding as unallocated this year. Your budget request for next year proposes eliminating this funding. Secretary McMahon, do you believe increasing access to mental health supports for students is not in the best interests of the federal government?
We're not looking to eliminate this funding. We are simply continuing the funding, but will allow the states to rebid on the competitive grant basis, and we're evaluating those programs across states. I think that a governor in a state or the local superintendent or the health care professionals that are working in that state have the best opportunity in looking at what is happening in their areas to make those requests for those grants. And so that's what we're looking at.
Secretary McMahon, the grant that you discontinued for the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction was being used to expand access to mental health care for students. We're talking about more counselors and mental health professionals in schools. Why did you cut off funding for this grant and take away this help for Wisconsin students in schools?
Well, because I think we have to look at it across the board, Senator, and the goal really is to make sure that the money is being spent in the best and the best places
What
for
about
the best
training
professionals.
new school psychologists, like what you chose to discontinue at Alverno College in Wisconsin? Do you think that's also not in the best interest of the federal government?
I believe there are a lot of programs that are in the best interest of the government, but the states and the local areas, I think, are the best place where we need to concentrate, for these particular programs.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, I'm going to add my voice of concern with Senator Collins, and you and I have talked about this on the zeroing out,